Hello, and welcome to Of the People. I'm Robert Chernin,
And I'm Ericka Redic.
and we are back for yet another episode of news, politics, and Ericka, our large, dare I say, large dose of irreverence. You know, it is the
Huge.
irreverence part that is the most fun to this show, right?
Well, it's got to be entertaining. And if all we did was complain and words we can't say on the radio, it wouldn't be as much fun, would it?
Well, we now know there are 3 words we can't say. If we do this show long enough, we'll get up to sort of the George Carlin 7 words you can't say. But I at least know 3 that I have been duly chastised on. And
Yes.
no, I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, we're learning our boundaries, ladies and gentlemen.
You know, I've never been good with boundaries. Just saying.
I'm not into it really, but Robert, it's this whole thing about being effective and helping shift the tides of politics. And oh my God, I guess I gotta follow the rules.
Yeah, I'm not a good rule follower, but speaking of not following the rules, it's a nice segue. Thank you.
You're
You didn't even know you
welcome.
were setting me up.
You're welcome.
So before we get to what I really want to talk about in this segment, it seems, remember that raid on Mar-a-Lago that the government did to get the classified documents from Trump?
Yeah.
And do you remember that both the White House and the Department of Justice said not only did they have nothing to do with it, they didn't know anything about it. Well, guess what? That was a lie.
No kidding.
There has just been disclosure that the executive office and the Biden administration not only knew about it, but put in a special request for it. Now, you say, I mean, at what point does someone just sort of, besides just beating your head against the wall, there's no accountability? It's amazing. It's amazing to me. Well, but hang on a second. Remember back in the 2016 election, Trump said they spied on my campaign and they bugged my office, and everyone said, no, that you're full of whatever.
You're crazy. What are you talking about?
What happened? Turned out to be true.
That's right.
Now, to our listeners, we are not backing Donald Trump, at least not yet. We'll see who the nominee is.
That's right.
But you've got to ask yourselves, where are the rules? Where's the responsibility? What we were just talking about, right? Where's the accountability, right? So thank you for indulging me. But what I really want to talk about in this section is big education. You hear about big tech.
Speaking of a lack of accountability.
Exactly. Thank you. So big tech, right? Big tech, big pharma, big oil, big energy, right? Everything. Now no one is focusing on big education. If you go in, because what really gets me upset, the more I read about it, and we can talk about my friend the Hobbit later, right?
But your girlfriend?
My girlfriend, well, I don't know if hobbits have genders. I haven't quite gotten into Tolkien that way, but so I don't know how he or she or it or they or we or me or they define themselves.
Okay.
Transgender, bigender, fluid, something.
You're they friend.
Well, my pronouns are simple.
Girlfriend,
my pronouns are simple. Me, myself, and I. Those are my pronouns.
I like it.
In case anybody's asking.
Simple, straightforward.
But seriously, the NEA, the National Education Association, and the American Federation of Teachers, the 2 largest unions, these people, I'm sorry, these people are the enemy. They are destroying our children. They're destroying our grandchildren. And they are not about education. They are political organizations. It just came out that they spent, I think it was the NEA, they raised $387 million in 2022. Guess how much of it went to the members versus how much went to political activities at large?
50%.
Wow. You're like related to the Amazing Kreskin. It's exactly 50%. It's 160, I think it was $167 million.
Unbelievable.
Okay, but now I have to challenge you. How many went to member services?
How much? You mean like actually serving the teachers that are union members?
Right. Member services.
Okay, so 50% went to political donations.
Right.
Then, well, you got to have some administration, you got to have some fundraising. Let's say 30%.
Wrong. Keep
What?
going. Next guess.
What?
3 guesses, bigger than a bread
Okay.
box.
Okay. 40%.
No, wrong direction.
Oh God, less?
Really the wrong
What?
direction.
You would what? 15%.
If I told you we were in single digits, would that give you a hint?
You're kidding me.
8 to 9% of big education funding is spent on teachers.
That's
Now,
outrageous.
these people claim to be about the children and about education. And if you remember, we've talked before that if you're judging based on results, I realize we're no longer a meritocracy and therefore results are racist. I got that. But if
Absolutely.
you're judging on results, math scores are down, English scores are down. We covered that, I think, last show,
I
right?
think that was the last show. Yeah.
So if they're raising 387 million, it's either 387 or 367. Someone can, I'm sure someone will fact check me, but it's let's call it 370 million, just in the middle of it. And half of that is going to political campaigns, political organizations, and other sort of what they term sort of ancillary costs. That's why aren't we treating big education the same way we're treating big pharma, big oil, big tech, all of the other things? They're certainly not in it for the children.
Well, and it doesn't sound like they're in it for they're not in it for the teachers. They're not in it for the children. Then it really does start to look like a political arm or an arm of the Democratic Party. And
But it
it
is a
looks like
political
they
arm.
give 94% of those donations are going to Democrats. 94%, Robert.
Right. No,
So,
look,
so
but
what happened to we care about the teachers and their pensions and we need to save the teachers.
that was pretty good. It's not
Yeah.
Halloween, but that was a pretty good voice. I like that.
I was really trying to channel my inner victim and my inner my I call them the professional victim class. That's going to be my new voice for the professional victim class. But in all seriousness, Robert, how do you know how they're justifying this? If they're not spending money on the kids and developing better educational practices or better teaching practices, they're not spending the money on supporting teachers, making sure they have the much needed mental health support they need given the changes and outrageousness that's happening in the schools. How are they justifying spending the majority of their money on anything other than actual education and education and improving educational outcomes?
Well, first, a couple things. Number one, they're not justifying anything because no one is looking at them. No one, because in this country, we value education. So it has sort of had exalted status. So God forbid. And by the way, that's the whole uproar with the parents' rights and critical race theory and all of those things, which is now challenging a long held status quo that education was not politically biased one way or another. So number one, no one is challenging them. That's starting to change. But more importantly, Ericka, no one is actually viewing the National Education Association or the American Federation of Teachers or any of the other education, quote unquote, teachers union organizations through the prism of a political operation, which is what it is. You referenced that they weren't spending money on education or children. Let's be clear. They are called the teachers unions. They're not called the children's unions. They're called the teachers unions for a reason. But there's a reason that no one focuses on them, right? Because they're scared of them. And who doesn't want, God forbid, someone gets accused of, well, first of all, we're all racist, as we say repeatedly here, but now you're anti-teacher, right? The minute you start challenging that, they roll out that old criticism. Oh, you're challenging teachers. No, we're not. We're challenging a bloated administration that does nothing but collect money and political payback and is really the enemy of our children and our grandchildren and is literally killing them in one form or another over time.
Well, and that's, I'm curious, Robert, What do you think the response is going to be to Randy Weingarten getting called up to testify before Congress? Do you think she's going to say yes, or do you think they're going to subpoena her?
Two chances, slim and none. And
Mm.
Slim is out of town. There is no chance that she will voluntarily testify.
Mm.
Now, since we've talked about my friend the Hobbit, right? The hopping mad Hobbit.
That's
Since we've
right.
talked about her, by the way, do you know what her profession was before she became before she was head of the union?
I just learned this, Robert. She's a lawyer,
She's a lawyer.
not a
And
teacher.
and she apparently, and I haven't verified this, apparently she has taught one semester full-time as a teacher ever.
Allegedly.
Right.
According
Allegedly.
to some reports, that is
Which shall be verified.
yes,
Um,
that is
I,
yeah,
I got
1
another
month,
one for you. How much do you think she makes?
$500,000
Ooh,
a year.
You did your I love you. You did your homework.
Robert, I'm telling you,
$500,000, folks.
this is so she gets 500,000 in her
Right.
pocket to then turn around and figure out who best to get elected using the what is it, the ATF? That's what she's in charge of, the American
AFT.
Federation of
The
AFT. Sorry, I always
AFT.
screw that up.
ATF are the guys that are taking your guns
I
away.
know, both equally terrible, right? The
Right.
So she's in charge of what is it? The second largest teachers union,
Correct. The
American
NEA is by
Federation of
far the
Teachers.
largest.
What, like, how do she's justifying a $500,000 salary literally to basically just redistribute union dues into the coffers of Democrats.
So do you know what she was before she was head of the union?
Besides a lawyer?
Besides a lawyer?
Oh, there's more?
Oh, of course there's more.
Oh,
There's
oh my God. What, Robert?
Ericka. There's always more. You just have to dig deeper.
Okay,
Before,
how much worse can it get?
well, what was President Obama before he was anything?
Oh, like a
He was
community
a
organizer or
community
whatever.
organizer.
Yeah.
Randy Weingarten, the hopping mad hobbit, which, by the way, as an aside, I have to tell you, she's criticizing people who are criticizing George Soros as being anti-Semitic. Another ridiculous trope. And by the way, Randy, you have a hard enough time staying on message when you're dealing with education. Stay out of anti-Semitism. Just because you're Jewish and so am I doesn't give you a right to speak on that. Stay out of it. You have no idea what you're talking about. However, she was a community organizer.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And can we talk about one other community organizer?
Wait. A community organizer. Was she a community organizer of a multi-million-dollar community organization?
No, at that level, it was much smaller graft.
Got it. Okay, so somebody with little experience and knowledge got given a high-powered position that pays a lot of money to manage. Okay.
Right.
I'm following the money. You tell me to
Well,
follow the money. I'm following the money.
please follow the money. And I'm going to follow it to something that you know better than anybody. Community organizers, right, take their playbook from your favorite book, which is Rules for Radicals.
Yeah. Yep.
And again, folks, it's a really small book. You'll read it in a day. If you want to know what they're doing, buy it and read it.
Yep. Worth every penny.
Worth every penny. If I had a picture and we weren't on radio, I'd lift it up and show everybody. But can't do that.
We'll cut it in on the podcast.
But you got it. I want to talk about another community organizer though. Right?
Yeah.
So we know President Obama was a community organizer. That explains why he is who he is.
Okay.
We know now that Randy Weingarten, before she was Princess Weingarten of the AFT,
yeah,
right, was a community organizer.
Okay.
So do you know who Brandon Johnson is?
No. Who's Brandon Johnson?
He is the mayor-elect in Chicago.
Oh, right.
He was city councilman. Right?
Yes.
He is a far left mayor, well, mayor-elect, right? And
Yep.
guess before he was city councilman what his job was?
Community organizer.
Community organizer. It's such a benign sounding word, don't you think?
It
What
does
what do you
sound
do? I
very
organize
benign.
the community. He organizes the teacher
Yeah.
strikes. He's, by the way, he just proposed $800 million in new taxes to fund education from the ultra rich. So we've now gone from the wealthy to the rich to the ultra rich. And I'm not sure anybody can define it. Just know if you're listening to this radio show, they're talking about you if you're in Chicago. So,
I mean, who is left in Chicago given the rampant crime and violence there? Are there
well,
actually people still staying there of their own free will
well, I think they're erecting a fence around the border of Chicago just
to
to keep
keep
everybody
people in?
in. You know, remember the old movie Escape from New York? Well, this is Escape from Chicago.
Do you
So,
do you know
oh,
that when California was trying to pass a law that said if you move, they can tax you for years after you leave? Side note, just side note. They're gonna try to get your money even if you don't live there anymore. Hurry up
wait,
and get out, y'all.
wait a minute.
Get
That's the blue states. New York State does it. I have an incredible number of friends who have left, fled New York for various reasons.
yeah,
Taxation without representation being primarily one of them.
yeah.
That and being accosted by the tolerant blue mob for not wearing masks and all those other things. New York will reach into. You have to prove to New York if you have residence in New York, if you do business in New York, they want your money. You have to prove to them that you spend 51% of your time outside New York, and it's usually about a 3 to 7 year process. And they're
Oh my
reaching into
god.
your pocketbook.
Oh my god.
California, no different.
All right, I derailed us, Robert. Let's get back to Brandon, the mayor, new taxes, and this Randy Weingarten
Well,
nonsense.
well, again, folks, the term is big education. That's really how you have to look at this. But back to Brandon Johnson. The interesting thing, Ericka,
Yeah.
is there are about 2.7 million, give or take, people in Chicago.
Okay.
I think this guy got I think he got 12% of the total population, not of the vote, of the population. So I think, he won like, I don't know, 51 to 47 from the other guy, Vallis or whatever his name is, right? Who cares? But when you total up the vote, it was about 310 or 15 or 20,000 out of a population of 2.7 million, which tells me that the people of Chicago even are just so fed up and they've given up.
They're
Because
not
how do you go
voting.
from Lori Lightfoot to someone who's even weaker on police, who I mean, I just defy, it's incredulous to me. And but he's a community organizer. So that, they're going to, and by the way, what he said was that they need more community organizers. He used a different term, but it's functionally what he said, on the street to prevent crime.
Oh wow.
No, you don't. You need more policemen in blue uniforms with guns.
Yeah, tell that to the social worker who just got murdered in Brattleboro, Vermont by one of their homeless residents, okay?
Wait, what happened?
Yeah, so a local homeless shelter here in Burlington, Vermont, one of the social workers, one of the employees was murdered by one of the homeless residents. Yeah.
That's horrible.
Right, because remember, in Vermont, we think it's a good idea to defund the police and replace them with social workers because that's how you handle violent criminals, according to our elected officials. So,
So it sort of gives the slogan "I love Vermont" a whole new meaning, don't you think?
oh my goodness, Robert. All right. Well, uh we have to get to a break, Robert. I
I know.
feel
You
like
know what?
we have so much more to cover on this Weingarten finances stuff.
So I want to go back to where we started. Remember, folks, big education, the teachers' unions represent the teachers, not the children, and they're hurting and killing our kids long term. They're a political organization. They're funded politically, right? They take dues. The district gets a piece of it, the state gets a piece of it, and then the national gets a piece of it. Anytime you hear about teachers' unions, just remember big education. And with that, Ericka, I love how you're elbowing me. Thank you. It's pretty good, but since we're not in the same studio today, we do have to go make some money because we are bourgeois capitalists. We'll be right back.
That's right.
America came into being based on a shared belief and a common set of values. Unlike other nations that were bound together based on common ancestry, race, or caste, we came into being based on a simple and shared set of ideals. That the power of government is based on the consent of the governed. That life, the freedom to live life on our own terms in our own way, free from government interference, and liberty, our most precious value, and the pursuit of happiness, which means we are free to pursue that which we choose, with the knowledge and courage to know that nothing is guaranteed to us in this life. Those values, America was founded on these basic inalienable rights. Freedom to pray to God in our own way. Freedom to think and speak freely without fear of punishment or harm. Freedom to gather in our places of worship and in our local taverns. Freedom to defend ourselves, our families, our homes, and our neighbors as we see fit. The American Center for Education and Knowledge is dedicated to protecting American exceptionalism anywhere and everywhere it is threatened. ASIC is a 501c3 and depends on your tax-deductible donations. Please help us continue our fight. Hello, welcome back to Of the People. I am Robert Chernin.
And I am Ericka Redic.
And yes, you are. And we're back for our next section of Irreverence. Forget about the news and the politics.
Yeah.
But there are just certain things that you just sort of, and if you thought we weren't serious the first section, Ericka, I got to bring up a name for you.
Okay.
Because I know we've discussed it. It makes me crazy. You know who Jessica Bates is, right? You do. Come on.
Jessica Bates. No, who's Jessica Bates?
So Jessica Bates is a woman in Oregon, or Oregon, because they're far gone in Oregon.
Oh, that was good.
She wanted to adopt through the local adoption agency. She had 4 children of her own. Husband dies in a car accident. They go through grieving. They want to go adopt a baby. And guess what? The foster care system in Oregon said to her,
no.
Says you are not fit to adopt a child because of your Christian values.
Wild
doesn't begin. I mean, the outrage, and basically what they said is because she would not support, based on her religious views, gender affirming, you know, that whole division, elitism, inclusion that they call diversity, equity,
genital mutilation and chemical castration, I believe are the terms you're
so I have a question for you. Right? Exactly. So, but is this really not now formally, right? Wokeism, the new god of wokeism, right? This is what this is, right? And you have to pay homage at the altar of the new god of wokeism.
Correct.
But is that not really a war on religion? If this woman, because of her religious faith and values, right, cannot be approved through a state agency to adopt a foster child.
Well, this is how they do it, Robert. Okay. They will tell you, this adoption agency, these state agencies, they'll tell you they don't discriminate based on religion, right? Because technically there's nothing in their bylaws or their rules that says, we can't adopt to religious people or whatever. The way they skirt around it is these rules, right? Well, that you have to abide by all of these things. You have to abide by what rules and norms we believe are not only acceptable but required if you're a parent. And one of those things is mutilating your children should they decide they are of a different gender. And so that's what is really insidious about it. That's one of the things It's not just adoption agencies, right? You see this in schools, in medical facilities. You see it with the censorship regime in general. They'll tell you, oh, it's not because of political ideology, but it just so happens that people of certain political persuasions are not going to agree with these things that you guys are suggesting. That's what it comes
Well,
down
I
to.
think the woke mob has run amok, and we've allowed it. But the
Mm,
question really for me is, have we crossed the Rubicon? Right? Are we?
mm,
Has it become a religious war? And let's be honest. If you look back through history, whether it's the Crusades, whether it's Cromwell's invasion into Northern Ireland, whether it's the Taiping Rebellion, whether it's the 30-year war in Germany. I mean, religion has been a casus belli, either directly or indirectly, for some of the wars in history. And this just feels a lot like that to me.
and
And look, I'm trying not to be incendiary. If you can deny the adoption of a child because of someone's religious beliefs and they do not subscribe to the state religion, but that's really, think
mhm,
about it. They've really now establishing a state religion in Oregon. Thank you. They're establishing a state religion. And if you
yeah.
don't subscribe to that state religion, you can't adopt a child because of your views. I can't even wrap my head around that.
Well, I think you put you put the nail on the head with that, Robert, which is that
Can I hit the nail on the head
hit
rather
the
than put
head.
the nail on?
You hit the nail on the
I don't want to put the nail on
you
the
didn't
head
just put it
because
there. You
it'll be
nailed
my head. That'll be.
it.
I don't want to do that.
So it is okay. Human beings are going to worship something. Okay, we are born and made to worship, and leftists are not going to want to hear that. But the evidence for it is that their vehement denial of a deity, of an actual God outside of themselves, they have developed instead a God that we call wokeism, right? It's got its baptismal, it's got its
It's got it
uh
all.
it really does. It has all the
Absolutely.
features of a religion. It has an ideology, it has blasphemy, it has your enemies, right? There's only one way to believe, otherwise you got to be cast out, right? It has all the same rules. It's just not based on anything um remotely resembling reason, logic, or goodness.
Well, it certainly doesn't have goodness, but to the people that I've spoken to, it has logic. Well, no, it has feeling to them. It doesn't have logic to them. I mean,
Mm,
essentially, what you're talking about is a secular God
yes.
or an atheistic God. You're talking about, because the God of wokeism, right,
Yeah.
is intolerant, as you point out. The God of wokeism is a vengeful God if you
Oh.
transgress.
Oh, yeah, it's the Old Testament God. It's
Right.
not New Testament
Right.
God from the gospel who's like, "I love you, and I'm the way and the light, and come to me, and I'll make your yoke light, and I'll carry your burdens. You're fearfully, wonderfully made. I know every hair on your head. I love you." Oh, no, it is the Old Testament God that is like burning things down, and you suck. Everybody's got to die. I'm sending a flood. I'm going to send in these troops. They're going to take your crap. Yeah, it is OT God.
So I'm going to push the envelope, as I know you'll be shocked by that. But I want to push the envelope a little more. So if this is really a war on religion, right? Because most
Mm,
wars, when you think about it, and there are obviously political and geographic reasons for war, and not all wars are religious in nature or base. But I've already reeled off a bunch of them, and there are others throughout history that if you go back, the Sudan War. I mean, there's so many wars that were driven by religion.
mhm,
This feels like that to me.
yeah.
So if I'm right, which remains to be seen, but if I'm right, and this is a war on religion or a religious war, doesn't it make so what we're really fighting is a holy war. We're
Mm.
fighting against the jihad, because that's what these guys feel like to me. They feel like jihadists.
It does feel that way. And when we see a rise in violence against Christians, a rise in prosecutions of people simply praying outside of termination
A
clinics.
rise in violence and anti-Semitism against the Jews, a
I
rise
mean,
against the Christians, the Catholic, whether you're Catholic or Protestant, doesn't matter.
absolutely. I mean, it really is being excused as okay, right? That whole punch a Nazi thing uh, takes on a whole new meaning when they get to define what a Nazi is. And they say a Nazi is anybody who disagrees with them.
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
if I mean, the greatest, most powerful enemy of the woke movement is religious people, whether it's Christians, Jews, Muslims, anybody. Even I would even I don't know enough about other religions to speak about it, but they are all the enemy of this new state run religion, because all of these other religions say that there will be no God above our God. And so it is the natural enemy of the state for you to put something else above the power and sanctity and sovereignty of the state. You will be punished and you will be made an example of.
So I have to take objection with one thing, just one thing that you said, because this is really, to me, an attack on Judeo-Christian values. And I won't say it's not that the Muslims don't have the same values, they do, but they're not right now. The woke mob, the god of wokeism, is not focused on Islam. It's focused
Which is
on
weird.
Christianity, and it's focused on Judaism. Let's call it what it is. Look, they will one day focus on Islam,
Yeah.
for sure. I don't think they've done that yet, right?
Well, it's another protected class, right? So Muslims in this country were considered, another oppressed class.
Oppressed minority. Sure,
Exactly. So they ended up
sure.
getting clustered in with LGBT stuff, with black stuff, even though these three groups really seemingly have all different priorities, needs, wants,
Right,
and cultures. Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, no, they'll
Yeah, you're right.
look as
You're right.
once they're done with the Jews and the Christians, or the Christians and the Jews, then
They're
they'll go
coming
after the
for them
Muslims.
next. Oh, you
Right,
better believe it.
right. So
Mhm.
wake up, folks. This is a holy war. It's a jihad. If the state religion can deny a woman in Oregon, who's suing them, by the way, and she'll lose. My prediction is she will lose in
Mm.
state court. She will lose in federal court. This one will go up to the Supreme Court. In my opinion, it's just, I don't know if the woman will be alive by the time it gets there. They're already trying to take out Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court for some innocuous trips that he disclosed and took with one of his friends who happens to be a rich guy, right? Which is just amazing to me. But so they'll try anything to regain a majority on the court. This will
Yeah.
go up to the Supreme Court, in my opinion. But if the state can establish a religion that says, if you don't believe this, what the state believes, you cannot adopt a foster child. First of all, it's an infamia to me. It is an
Mm.
absolute violation of everything decent and human in the world. But it tells you where the power is. And this is a holy war. This is
Yeah.
a jihad. And if you view it through that prism of these people, then it makes more sense. It doesn't make it any easier to fight,
Yeah.
but it makes it easier to understand the enemy that's attacking us. And attacking us would be the Judeo-Christian values of God, of family, of those,
Mhm.
those traditional values
Mhm.
that they
Individual liberty,
clearly have.
sanctity.
Individual liberties, personal responsibility. Look at me, I'm a victim, right? I mean, none of that
Mhm.
crap. So,
Yeah.
right. So it, that's what we're fighting against. When I read the article, it just, first of all, my heart goes out to the woman. Husband dies in a car crash, raising four kids as a single mom. I mean, I've seen the boss's job, raising kids. My hat goes off to her. It's hard as can be,
Yeah.
right? And then going back to last show, it doesn't take a village. It does take a family, though. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. It's really, it's incredible. And then she tries to open her home to a homeless
Yeah.
foster child. And they said, no, because you don't believe the right way.
Yeah.
It's
We would rather leave them in a hotel or uncared for. I've talked about this on my show, Generally Irritable, before. When we were living in Los Angeles, It was something like 500,000 children in the state of California that were in the I believe it was the state of California. It could have been LA County, but I want to make sure I'm not lying to our listeners. It was either LA County or California. 500,000 kids in the foster care system with no homes, living in hotel rooms with no supervision, no parental supervision. These are literally children being left to languish without care because the system would rather put roadblocks in the way to these kids getting adopted by loving, caring families. And clearly, Oregon is no different.
Well, you know what it is? They don't care about the kids. They're like the teachers' unions. They don't care about the kids. They care about dogma and they care about ideology. And they sure the hell don't care about the kids because you know what that really means? Kids don't matter.
That's right.
Well, they matter to me and they matter to you and they matter to most Americans. We're going to revisit this one. I'm going to see how that one goes. I know we're on a short break this time. We have to go back to break and make some more money in the capitalistic way.
Money, money,
you are listening to The People with Robert Chernin and
Ericka Redic.
Right. Thank you. Was that your? Never mind.
That was me.
We'll be right back. Are you tired of seeing your rights stripped away by the politicians in Washington who don't care about you or me? Do you feel like you're a red dot alone in a sea of blue, disconnected? Well, it's time to get connected. The American Center for Education and Knowledge is fighting back to defend American exceptionalism. Go to acecfund.org to learn more and get connected. That's acekfund.org. Do it now. Hello, welcome back to Of the People. I am Robert Chernin.
I'm Ericka Redic.
And we are back and happy to be back with you.
You know
Ericka.
what I'm really feeling today, Robert?
What are you feeling today? Talk to me.
I'm feeling hungry. You know,
are you hungry?
I'm a little bit hungry. Maybe I need a nap. And I'm thinking that maybe I should be reimbursed for those expenses. You know, my normal everyday expenses of being a human being, eating, sleeping, transporting myself from here to there. I just kind of feel like I shouldn't have to pay for those things myself.
Okay. I'm all ears.
So
why not? Because everyone else does.
I'm just, I'm really trying to channel Congress right now. Okay. So Congress, right, they draw a salary.
Okay.
And that salary,
I think I know where you're going.
Normally people pay for their living expenses with their salary.
Right.
But now they're saying, you know what, $174,000 a year really isn't enough because I need to maintain a home and food and all that stuff in multiple places. And so I'm going to go ahead and need you, the American people, to give me some more money.
Keep going. You're on a roll. Don't let me stop you now.
It is Robert.
So we're going into Swamp Watch. We're going into Swamp Watch territory.
Oh, I love it.
We're talking about the swamp.
I feel like we need a stinger for that. Swamp Watch. I feel like we're going to need a theme song to go with that. That should be a recurring segment for our show.
I agree. And by the way, folks, we're not talking about like a watch like the one I'm wearing and the one she's wearing. This is the Swamp Watch, the swamp being Washington, D.C., right?
Yes, that is right. They're up to it again, Robert.
Just for our listeners, I wanted to make sure they knew which watch we were talking. Which watch? Swamp Watch. Let me jump in because I know where you're going. You know the thing that bothers me about all of this. So it's one thing that there's so many things in life that bothers me, folks. Just in case you're wondering and you're watching all these shows, I'm bothered by everything, but some more than others. in this case, okay, Congress makes $174,000, which, by the way, is still OPM, other people's money. So it's
That's
not
right.
like they are producing a product and selling it. Well, they do sell. That is true, but they sell favors.
They don't produce
They
anything. That's
produce.
right.
They produce. There is no John Galt. There is no Galt's Gulch. There is no the producers of the world, right? So that would be Ayn Rand, ladies and gentlemen. So they get $174,000 of our money, and they don't have the courage. They all complain they need more money, especially like AOC, because I'm only a waitress and I got to go 3 months without money, and it's very expensive to live here. Well, then don't take the job.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that is part of, like, when you go through the job interview, you go, well, okay, how much does this job pay? Oh, I can't afford to take this job because I need to make more money to live.
Yeah.
They don't do that. But what I object to is they all say they want more money and they want to pass pay raises. They know it's politically incorrect. So you know what they did? They didn't pass a pay raise. They surreptitiously passed a bill to reimburse them for expenses. Right. Under the radar, America doesn't really know about it. Now, in all fairness, it's quote unquote optional. But
right.
How many people you think aren't going to take that?
Well, and that's what is it? Somebody, where did I read it? They're saying, as an example, for one of the lawmakers to opt in, they'll get $1,880 for the 10 session days back in January. So you guys aren't even in session for more than half of the month, and y'all can't figure. No wonder we have $33 trillion in debt, Robert. If y'all can't figure out how to live for 10 days at a reasonable rate a month outside of your home, I don't know what to tell you. Why?
So I want to know where the Texas accent comes from, since you're in Vermont.
Well, I did spend a lot of years in Texas.
You can take the girl out of Texas, but you can't take Texas out of the girl.
It depends on my mood. Like, sometimes if I'm real fired up, the Vermont redneck comes out and I'm like, yar, dude, I can't, dude, like, yar, bro. It's comes out. It's very, it's unusual.
So you're telling me you have a lot of different personas.
Yeah, I do. Just like
how many?
Congress.
Oh, good. Look, Congress doesn't have many personas. They have one.
They have one.
They want to spend other people's money. And look,
money.
There are good congressmen. There are not, but
they have steal your money. They have take your money. They have reimburse themselves with your money. They have
but they're not copping to it. That's the issue.
Yeah,
the issue is, I mean, look, if you're going to pass a pay raise, then have the courage. I was going to use another word, but I'm sure it would have been bleeped. Have the courage to just say that that's what it is, and don't sort of go through the back door and say, oh, well, we're reimbursing ourselves, because God knows that Congress has all these other perks that you and I don't have.
Correct.
Paid for by OPM and other people's money, which would be yours, mine, and our listeners.
Yep, that's right. They get full pension, full medical and dental and all those benefits, much better than what we have access to under the Obamacare regime. So they get security details, right? Famously, you might remember Cori Bush saying she should have House Representative Cori Bush saying that she should have armed security because she's doing important work and she deserves protection, but still calling for defunding the police because you're not as important. She said it on camera. So
this was the same Cori Bush who hired private security, paid them with congressional funds, and now she's, I think, either engaged or marrying the guy. You mean that Cori Bush?
Correct. Yes. So this is, I mean, these people are they are hypocrites and liars across the board. And so I get it. Okay. I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Let's be fair. They're not all hypocrites and liars, but there are plenty of people there who are only there for 30 years to milk the system, right?
Exactly. And they are the ones who can afford to buy a second or third home in Washington. Bernie Sanders. They are the kind of people.
Wait a minute. If you write a book, you could be a millionaire too. Isn't that what Bernie said?
Hey,
Hey, write a book.
capitalism. Hey, capitalism.
By the way, we're gonna plug your book. You did write a book, didn't you? What's it called?
Yes, it is called Reasons to Trust the Government.
Okay.
Yep.
Where can they buy it? I know that this is just really naked capitalism. Where can they buy it?
Shameless. Amazon.com.
Shameless. Okay.
Amazon.com for just $9.99. You too can learn all of the detailed reasons why you too can trust the government. Okay. It is an account that Benjamin and I, Lord Redic and I just decided, you know what? With all of our experience and knowledge, we really need to share and bestow upon the American people what we have learned.
So, folks, if you're listening, go buy one, or maybe you'll get an autographed copy, because there's enough room in that book to autograph.
That's right. But you can also go to generallyirritable.com and find a link right from our website, generallyirritable.com.
Perfect.
Hi, I'm a random Negro wearing a wave cap. And just like my hair is being oppressed by this cap, smooth it out, that's how I feel living in America. Because you cannot trust the government. Now let's talk about this for a second. Government agents, government programs, can't trust any of them. You can't trust any government, and that's really the key here. That's why we wrote this book, Reasons to Trust the Government. It breaks down on a granular level why you can trust no government and no man, woman, or child sent by the government. It would just be foolish. Now here's the deal. You can't trust them because they're bad at their job. Here's the more entertaining part of the deal. They know they're bad at their job. They just don't care. So, I don't care how you see this situation, what you've gone through in your life. I'm telling you right now, it's probably government's fault. Now, this book is available on Amazon.com. For $9.99, it's basically a steal. Kind of like your taxes being stolen by the government. We wrote this book to educate men and women on all the many reasons you can't trust the government. If you want to, you could see this as a form of reparations. If you got some white guilt, get it off your shoulders. Buy that book. If you're a patriot and you want to support your country and people who love it, make that purchase. Amazon.com. Do the right thing. Get reasons to trust the government. Couldn't holler, I'm sorry.
Isn't that just like Uncle Sam? That guy thinks he's entitled to your money, your labor, your time, whatever it is you produce, the government believes it's entitled to. It also doesn't think that it owes you an explanation for when it changes the rules. Anyone who's owned a business, worked for the government, the military, or just really, if you're over the age of 25, you've probably had an experience where the government screwed you or your family over. And that's why Lord Redic and I decided to write this book, Reasons to Trust the Government. Because as you can imagine, this is an important work that will help you and your neighbors understand exactly just to what extent they cannot trust the government. Not one single bit, not at all. Go to Amazon.com today, get your copy. It's just $9.99, and make sure to leave a review.
I will, by the way, there is one perk I do want to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, they have a beauty salon in Congress that, Congress can use free of charge.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. But
no,
but
they
wait.
don't.
Yeah. God is my witness. Yes, they do. And what it really leads me to believe is there aren't a lot of people using that beauty salon that really could use that beauty salon. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, if you've got that beauty salon and it's free, and look,
Whew.
I object to using my tax money for paying for a lot of things, but if I got to watch your dumb rear end on
Oh my
TV,
God.
use the
this
beauty
like
salon, because there are plenty of them that need that.
Is this for like when they go on the news and stuff like that? Or is it like I'm made of questions right now. Why does Congress need is this like, oh, we're the makeup department for, Karen Jean Pair in the
I
press
have no
secretary's
idea.
office? Like, what is the what I, I oh my God. Okay. I'm not gonna freak out. It
Yeah,
is astonishing to me.
look. All I say, if you have a beauty salon, congressmen and congresswomen or senators, and by the way,
Mhm.
female senator is still a senator, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
But there's congressmen and congresswomen, or is it now congressperson?
I mean, who cares?
Which, by the way, these are the same people who want to change the term manhole to people hole because it's sexist. Just putting that out there. So, it's just, it's crazy. But wait, we need to get back to a serious note here.
Okay.
I will say, it brings up the concept to me of term limits. And what people should know seriously, Senator Ted Cruz, God bless him,
Yeah.
a co-sponsored a bill, and I forget the other senator, in January of 2023, so this year, to pass term limits for Congress. And I want to read to everyone. I know, there he goes reading again. I want to
No,
read you what
don't
he
read
happened
it.
to say as to why term limits are necessary. And I
Okay.
want your reaction to this. So term limits are critical to fixing what's wrong with Washington, D.C. The founding fathers envisioned a government of citizen legislators who would serve for a few years and return home, not a government run by a small group of special interest and lifelong, permanently entrenched politicians who prey upon the brokenness of Washington to govern in a manner that is totally unaccountable to the American people. That's about as good and powerful and true as it gets. So
Yep.
where are you on term limits?
I am a very strong supporter of term limits. I have been for many years. I even advocated for them during my congressional campaign.
Okay.
I signed the pledge. There was a term limits pledge. Some organizations, COS, term limits. I'll sign it because, people will argue. What I heard argued from people was, well, we need some consistency and some longevity so that we can manipulate people into giving us more money, or we need consistency so that things flow better or whatever. And I'm going,
Yeah, we need
um
someone who knows where all the bodies are buried,
well,
who's been
also,
around long enough.
here's the deal. Our founding fathers were really, really smart guys. Uh, Term limits are basically, or excuse me, longevity and stability is actually written in where it belongs, right? So you have senators
Ooh,
who sit for
very
6 years.
very
Exactly.
good. That's
Senators,
excellent.
yes, and then the House was intended specifically to be more representative, to be fast moving, and to have high turnover so that it is actually, in fact, representative of the people that they purport to represent. And so, we don't need kings and queens in Washington. We need Congress people. And so, big supporter of term limits.
As am I. First of all, I think there's two things. The first thing is that you follow the example set by the founding fathers and the politicians of old who were citizen legislators. And that's really the key, right? The key
Yes.
is to go back into your community. There's that word again. We're not organizing, however, but to go back into your community and become a fat part of that fabric, as opposed to become part of the permanent entrenched political class that sort of feeds off the carcass in all
Yeah.
of this. So, folks, we're coming out really strong. Just to make a very blatant statement, of the people, Robert Chernin, Ericka, Redic, ASIC, we support term limits for the health of the country.
That's right.
That is I don't know what the answers are to solve all the ills or the problems in the country, but I know that term limits is a part of that solution. Has
I
to
think
be.
something that you said was so important there, Robert, which was Um, oh gosh, yeah, I got so excited. I got to take notes next time because you said they did not intend for it to be a bunch of politicians, entrenched
No, they didn't.
politicians who are then, like you said, knowing where all the bodies are and things like that. George Washington, our first elected president as the United States of America, set the example by stepping down after 2 terms.
Correct.
He was a statesman before he was a politician or anything else. And I think that sort of wisdom and discernment that was demonstrated is so important. And when we talk about, you were talking in your last, we were talking in our last segment about wokeism being the new religion and that it's basically the state religion. Well, now what we have in that religion with many of these politicians who have been there for years and years and years, they're like the elders of the church, right? They're the ones who are established. They're the ones who have power. They are helping dictate and direct where those additional monies and things are going from the additional arms of the Democratic Party. I mean, it is the corruption that is wrong with Washington. The fact that they can stay there, manipulate, do insider trading, and create barriers to entry for middle class candidates and other folks to come in. I mean, ultimately, this just further entrenches their control over the American people. And it's why I'm a big supporter of convention of states. I know we've had some, yeah, that is a contentious argument among those of us involved in ASIC. But
that is a contentious argument. I
but
know
but
you are.
I
I know you are passionate about that, and you know that I have serious
just
doubts.
I don't believe that there is a way to get the federal government to dismantle the power it has. And I think that control rests in the states. And I don't see any other way to take back power from the federal government when it is at this point, when all of the 3-letter agencies are so entrenched in our lives, when the American people say that they want change but then refuse to cut any benefits or entitlements or budgets, when we have these folks who are fundraising all of this money off of the backs of pharmaceutical companies and oil companies and
Don't forget big education.
big education, all this stuff. The federal government, I don't trust to check the federal government. And so I really believe the change has to come from the states. So if anybody can come up with a better solution, I'm happy to hear it.
I do not disagree. Look, we talked about it last show. The larger the federal government becomes, the less freedom we have as Americans. And that's the core of American exceptionalism.
Yeah.
I am skeptical about the Convention of States, because once you open Pandora's box, you may end up with a worse document. I mean, don't forget, going back to the Constitutional Congress was empowered to, quote unquote, reform the Articles of Confederation. They didn't. They exceeded their mandate. They didn't reform it. They threw it out. And then they wrote the Constitution, which obviously is our guiding, operating document. If you open up the Constitution again, and again, you're going to need how many states to approve it? I mean, there's a whole lot of obstacles here.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think that there's lobbying and political influence now, imagine that. I mean, this is not 1787. Social media.
I'll tell you what.
Protests.
Tell you what, Robert.
ABC.
You find another solution. I'm gonna make you 2 challenges. You find me another solution other than convention of states, and I'll consider it. Number 2, how about we have Mark Meckler on the show? He's a personal friend. We can ask.
I think we would love to have Mark Meckler on the show. I think that would be. That's
you
good.
Can grill him. You can grill him to death. It'll be great. It'll be entertaining.
Does that mean we have to be serious on that show?
No,
I
Mark's
sort of like our irreverence, our glib that goes back and forth.
No, actually, after volunteering for Convention of States for several years, getting to know Mark and his wife Patty, great people. Everyone that I've worked with at COS has been just a stellar human being that really genuinely cares about America in a way that you don't find in the general cross section of people. And so that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about the organization is the people. It really is a people-led movement. And that's what I find so amazing about it. So I'm happy to, when we start doing guests, when we start doing interviews, we'll give Mark a call. We'll have him on.
I think that's good. Look, I'm skeptical, as you know. Once you, I do not doubt the integrity nor the serious intention of those people. I
Yeah.
doubt their ability to control the process once you open up that can of worms. I
Mhm.
just don't think it can be controlled. And I think we end up, especially now, look, we've lost, I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record. We've lost control of the media. We've lost the narrative. We've lost control of the cultural institutions. We've lost control of higher education, K to 12 education, because you have the hopping, the hopping
Mhm.
hobbit going around, right?
Mhm.
You have big education, who is a political organization that is driving all of this. How do we, and it's a rhetorical question, it doesn't need an answer, but how do we have an impact to reform the Constitution when you open it up, when you don't control the media? You don't, forget about not controlling it, you don't even have any influence in it.
Well, then
And
it'll crash and burn because you need 38 states to pass it and ratify it and the whole bit. So
well
there it is.
okay. Well, look, the other solution, ladies and gentlemen, storm the Bastille. But that is a different discussion for a different day, because we're getting flagged. Ericka, this was fun. It always is with you. Great show.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I like
thank you
it
so
better
much
when
for
we
listening.
disagree, Robert. I think it's fun.
Oh, you want to really disagree? Next show, we're going to disagree at least once.
Ooh.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Of the People. I am Robert Chernin.
And I'm Ericka Redic.
And thank you so much for tuning in. See you next time.